CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy. This is Series 1 of Conversations with Women in African Philanthropy, a CAPSI program known as Adɔyɛ. The series was recorded at the sidelines of a retreat that took place at the Wits Rural Facility in Limpopo in January 2025, hosted by CAPSI's Adɔyɛ program and Nawi AfriFem Collective. Adɔyɛ is dedicated to celebrating and amplifying the contributions of African women in philanthropy while creating spaces for dialogue, learning, and collaboration. Adɔyɛ operates under the Center on African Philanthropy and Social Investment, aligning its mission with broader goals of promoting effective philanthropic practices in Africa. Through its efforts, Adɔyɛ seeks to build knowledge, foster dialogue, cultivate partnerships, and advocate for policies that support women in philanthropy.
Welcome to another episode of our Conversations on African Philanthropy with me, Beginkos Moyo. This afternoon we are joined by Coumba Toure, a feminist writer, a well-experienced leadership coach who lives in Popengine, Senegal. But Coumba, I really wanted to start on a very interesting note. The 10 languages that you read yesterday. Do you speak all those 10 languages?
No, I don't speak all the 10 languages, but I have, I would say, about 5 to 6 of them.
Yeah.
And then the others, I understand some and I use them in different ways.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was really fascinated by, I don't know whether it's a write-up or it's a poem, but I was really fascinated by that because unless somebody says, do you speak all of them? Everything that we were saying from each of the languages was really telling of the experiences that you as a person have gone through in those particular contexts, in those cultural settings. But maybe we'll come back to that. So welcome to our Conversations on African Philanthropy. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you remember. So every time I think of talking to you, I think about 2007. And 2007 is when I first met you. And I'd just been invited by Akwasi and team for an interview for the TrustAfrica position. And then it was programs director. You were part of the panel. I didn't get that job. I have the opportunity to ask you why you didn't give me that job.
Terrible. What a question. He's like, I'm getting back to you years later.
I didn't get the position, but what then the panel did, you, Akwasi and others, what the panel then did said, we don't think you are ready for this position, programs director, but as we were talking to you, we realized that you could help us with research. And then on the spot, I was given a position of a research fellow, which did not exist at all. So we crafted the position of a research fellow, and then as you have it, later on I became the programs director. So I wanted to start there to remind you that, you and I have come from long far. I don't know if you still remember the details of that interview.
Oh, definitely. I remember it like yesterday. TrustAfrica was still getting set up.
Yeah.
It was really at the beginning of, come to look at it, it's quite an incredible adventure to set up such an institution on this continent, to have a foundation that support democracy and work on all of these issues. And I think what was the most important thing for us then was building an institution. It was less about what we would fund, what we would work on, with who, but it was about, can we create an institution that will stand through time, that would have the type of governance, the type of structure that would allow it to survive and thrive in the future.
Yeah.
So yes, you definitely you caught that panel's attention, and it was clear that we were not the only a person that was interviewed, and we had other people that we thought were more fit for the job. But it was clear to the panel also that you had skills that we needed at the time.
And of course, most people would not even know that at that time, I think Akwasi probably was the only full-time staff member. And then you were really at the beginnings of building TrustAfrica. So I think there was Akwasi, the driver, and I think you had recruited, I think, the operations person. And everything else was really being built from scratch. And here we are today. I want us to maybe talk about the journey that TrustAfrica has traveled to a point where you have also served and you are the outgoing chairperson of the board. Let's talk about the journey of TrustAfrica from your perspective, but also from the perspective of your function as the board chair.
Yeah, I'm proud today of being the chair of the board of TrustAfrica, and I am honored to have been, chosen by my other board chair members. I believe they really thought, for some reason, that I was the best person to do it at the time that they chose me. But to tell the truth, every single board member of TrustAfrica could be the chair of TrustAfrica. You know them. And these are, to me, people that I look up to in terms of their experience in the philanthropy field, but also in terms of just their knowledge, capacity, but also level of ethics, and also just who they are as human beings. And I think it's been really the wealth of TrustAfrica has been also about its board member and its governance structure. The other thing also I would say is about the staff. TrustAfrica have been really attracting very, very, I would say, not just talented people, but people who also deep and at the core are engaged and believe in building Africa in a different way. And that's also is extremely, I would say, extremely special. The field that we got into in terms of philanthropy is not an easy one. And there's been difficult times, up and down, especially when it comes to resources. It's definitely not a simple road. But we are here, and to me, just the existence of this institution is a testimony of what is possible when people come together, when people work together, and when people decide that we will offer and we will create something different.
You know, you joined you became the board chair at the time of probably what I could call multiple transitions. So Akwasi had just left, and shortly after that, Tendai had also joined, and he had also left. So as the chair of the board, obviously you had to deal with the transitions issues. Akwasi was one of the biggest, people to even think about replacing. Of course, once a transition like that happens, you are bound to have like some concerns around the stability of the institution, where it will go. But one looks back and says the board managed to steer the board in a way that made it stable. And today you look back and you see this stable but also powerful institution in the continent. So I'm keen to know from you what were the other issues that concerned you as the chair of the board. I mean, we know the chair of the board runs the board, and there will obviously be things that as the chair you were very concerned about, you were passionate about, and you would say, during my term, I want to drive these 2 or 3 issues. What would those issues be?
Yeah, I would say that for Trust Africa, yes, like for every other organization, transition, and especially transition from a founding executive director is not simple.
Yeah.
And of course, the difficulties of standing in somebody else's shoes for a minute, and comparison, and also how I want to say people view institution depending on who leads it. Definitely change. I have to say that the former chair, Aisha Ba Jallo, was the one who was really at the core of that, the hardest piece of that transition. It is as she moved out that I stepped in, but we were together in that moment, and I watched her. I watch, other member of the boards really being strong and managing difficult moment, but with a lot of grace. I would say with a lot of grace. And in some ways, because I was new, I had a certain distance from everything and everybody, and could maybe easier, talk to different members, and bring back the consciousness that this is a moment that will pass, and that somehow all of us are bound to connect, to work with each other within or outside of Trust Africa. And I think that was the most important piece for me, and learning around that time. And as a new chair, it was a big shift for me to also look at the new the new and coming executive director, and to be as a chair a support to the executive director, and to also bring the board to see itself as such, and how we become in a way almost an extension of the executive director in terms of how we help and push the organization forward. Of course, the main role of a board is governance, and we are very clear that this is where institutions are different, and where institutions survive or fail. It is in the governance. It is in being able to hold the staff accountable to what the vision and the mission and the ethics of the organization is. And I think we've been able to hold that. And I would say that we've also been lucky in many ways. And yes, we've done a lot of work in terms of search, but to have strong staff and strong executive director, currently Ibrahima Sal.
Yeah. So, everything okay? Okay, great. So, thank you so much for that, because we, as CAPS, as you know, we have a strong relationship with TrustAfrica. We do lots of programs jointly, one of which is the Africa Philanthropy Conference, and we've really been excited to partner with TrustAfrica. So it's almost as if we are of the same family.
Yeah.
As we speak right now, we are busy planning the next APC in Cairo.
Yes.
Towards the end of last year, we went to Cairo to try and look at the venue, speak to local partners, and very soon we'll be meeting again with TrustAfrica. So thank you so much for your leadership. I know that you are the outgoing chairperson, but hopefully you will still continue to be engaged, because for me, I cannot fathom a TrustAfrica without Coumba, because when I joined TrustAfrica in 2007, you were there, and to imagine that, you leave the board and not be involved, it doesn't really look like a possibility at all. But I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank you for your service. I know that you are also writing, your experiences, so wouldn't want to dampen your spirit by capturing everything here. So we will leave some of your experiences at TrustAfrica for your writings, and once that is out, we will also be able to refer people to that. But you have also been part of other institutions, and so I want to get your sense of your experiences, for example, as a board member of Women Building Up, being a member of Ashoka, but you're also the former coordinator of Africa Risings. So maybe you could also choose any of the experiences that you might want to share with our audience.
Yes, many experiences. I mean, from Ashoka, I think the time of Ashoka, my work was to search and support social entrepreneurs across West Africa, and it gave me an amazing opportunity to see for myself some of the most brilliant people and proposition in terms of what could change and positive change look like, and in all kind of fields. To me, still today, I am connected to that institution and to the work of the people that has been supported. My work with Africans Rising really is and was about building movement and looking at how do we build solidarity movements and come together as African, not only on the continent but in the diaspora, to defend human rights, to work for African liberation, to build African unity. And of course, an incredible adventure of looking at hundreds of organizations coming together who work in all kind of fields and in very different ways, in 5 different languages and so on. In philanthropy still, I think my work and being on the board of Urgent Action Fund for Women Africa has been one of the strongest and the key moment in terms of looking at how do we build and sustain a philanthropy organization, African organization, supporting women across the continent. Yes, I am a writer, and Women Building Up is a new institution that we are building and focusing a lot on incarceration and women. The truth is, throughout the years, and with all of the organizations that I've been involved in, either as staff or board or member, the thread of Pan-Africanism, of feminism, of philanthropy, of creativity has stayed. And everywhere I've been, that's what I've pushed and bring to show that it's possible to bring all of these things together. And yes, my term for Trust Africa will be up soon, and I'm looking forward to it, to be able to release the space for other people to take over. But so far, I haven't left an organization or an institution without still being involved and positively involved and being supportive to it. And I think that's also a wealth in a way, because I am still able to connect even the different organizations. I'm still able today to go back to any of those institutions to connect with people, to retrieve information or learning, or to bring them together with new ones.
And of course, yesterday you did talk to the group, and you mentioned the work that you are doing through the Invisible Giants. Let's talk about the foundation and the work that it does. I had an opportunity to go to the website just to look at the impactful stories that you mentioned, but I had the opportunity to read it for myself. But for our audience, let's talk a bit about the Invisible Giants, but we leave enough space for them to also have the opportunity to go and read in detail the amazing work that you are doing.
The Invisible Giants is really a celebration of women, African women on the continent and in the diaspora, who are active and who are making a difference in many different fields. But the reality is that they don't get the props and the visibility that they're supposed to get. And to me, celebrating them, inviting people to tell them thank you, to also invite people to record their stories in written form, video, photography, different art form, is to me a way of fighting that invisibilization of women. And art, again, and creativity for me is a way to do that, to give that visibility. So, for example, our participation to the Dakar Art Biennale in the past 2 Biennale, as doing photo exhibit, video exhibit, music, painting, different ways in which people can see these invisible giants. And we're planning to do it more, do it better. And we are now at a point where we are inviting and getting more institutions and more organizations and more movement to celebrate invisible giants, because we all have them in our organizations, in our neighborhood, in our families. And what we really want is inspire people to and make it a movement where people celebrate women who many times in the shade do this great work, allow institutions to function, create the setting that is needed for work to happen, contribute to knowledge creation, but many times their names are erased.
Yeah, and part of what I think runs through as a thread, and you said it yesterday, is that this work is really to help young people who might be living with maybe disabilities or something to actually see that it's possible, but using, these invisible giants who have actually done it, which takes me to your profile as a writer. You chose to write children's books. What influenced that choice? Because you could have chosen to write other things. I think you live in West Africa. West Africa is one of the most colorful regions in the world. So you could have chosen to write on music, on arts, on culture, but you chose to write on children.
Yeah, writing on children's book really came to me as part also as my work. I was involved with the Institute for Popular Education in Mali in looking at education systems. And in the process of creating a model school, we realized that the texts and the books that we had did not fit the content we wanted to transmit.
Yeah.
Whether it's gender biases or violence in the text, or the images that are completely, I want to say, racist. We realized that the books that we had in our hands were not what we wanted to put in the hands of our children. Yeah. So really I came to writing for children more because it was a need. For many years what I wrote was not for publication. Yeah. It was really for direct use, in experimental, classrooms and so on. Yeah. I end up, being published by, Fatou Ndiaye Sow, a woman from Senegal, who basically forced me and published one of my books against my will. Yeah. and when she passed, I took over and took the publishing house because really the story was that she introduced me, not only published my book, but introduced me to the world of writers and women writers. Yeah. The Women Writers Conference at NYU, Yari Yari Pamberi, where African women, black women writers from all over met. She took me there, presented my books, and I realized that in a way this is where I belong. Yes, so that's really what kept me in writing children's books.
But one would probably say, even though it started as a need, over time it has probably evolved into a passion because you have stayed.
Yes, definitely. I stayed because it's really at the core of change. To me, I look at all of the things that we are working for, what we want in the future, what we look for even in the adults that we meet and that we don't see. Yeah. And I start thinking, where do we put it? Where do we build it early on? Yeah. That African children grow up to be proud of themselves and of their heritage. How do we make sure that they know their own history? How do we make sure that issues that they face, as difficult as they might be, are put in a language that equip them to be able to go beyond it. Yeah. So it becomes not only a passion, something I have a lot of joy doing, but it also extremely political, as naive or simple as it might look like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want to come back to the writing piece, but I want to try and go back to your experiences, because you are not just a Pan-Africanist, you are also, one would say, an internationalist. You have done some work in Selma, Alabama, California. Maybe get us to understand part of the work that you do across the shores of Africa, mainly the work that you have done in the US. I remember recently I met you in New York for the Africa Summit, but you were not just attending the Summit of the Future. There were also lots of actors that you were organizing, artists and writers and musicians. So maybe take us into that side of your life as well.
Yes, in 1996, I traveled to the US. And the place I landed is called Selma, Alabama.
Yeah.
So landed basically in Atlanta and drove to Selma. This is where I spent my first night. So Selma, Alabama, for those who know, is really, the city that is known for, the civil rights movement, the marches, and so on. And still today, there is an organizing spirit there around Jubilee, where people come back and discuss not only about things that have happened in the past, but look at what needs to be done today. So it is really from Selma and that I've visited the Black Belt, as they call it, the south of the U.S., and worked really research, if we could call it so, African identity outside of Africa. And this also was part of our work with the Institute for Popular Education of Mali. And we built very strong ties with people there across the years, building exchanges, taking artists, students, academics, coming to West Africa, but also the same on the other side. And building ties with institutions like the Highlander Center in Tennessee. And to us, our trips across the Mississippi, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, Louisiana, and so on, meeting artists, going to universities, churches, farmers' cooperative, etc., was really understanding that gap. Because when you talk about Pan-Africanism, we're talking about African unity. It's across the continent, but it's also with the African diaspora. So, and to us, it was the biggest, for me, the biggest education we could have, gotten to understanding what are we missing, and what should we be preserving, and how should we be reconnecting with, people across the world. So that has been, staying, and that exchange is still going on with initiative like the Black Link that we are still doing, and we will be celebrating Invisible Giants actually in Selma this March around Jubilee. California was also another piece of connection, and we know that California is also a big space, in particularly Oakland, of the Black Panthers Party, but also a big place of people who worked around environmental issues, and for many years also connection with youth groups, youth organizations that were extremely involved around environmental issues, but did work globally. And for many years, we built leadership programs and leadership camp for young people across the globe, with Youth for Environmental Sanity. And to this day, we were able to build extremely deep and strong connection with people from Peru to Alaska, to New Zealand, to India, to Europe, and in a way that make us, I want to say, kins, make us know that we are really the same people, and we live on the same earth, and there are things that we need to do together. So that also is another part of my life.
Yeah, I mean, one would probably want to ask you, because you, among many, you are probably one of the very few people who could give us a sense of what you think is the state of Pan-Africanism today. I mean, everything that you have been describing, one of the threads, as you say, it is Pan-Africanism. And there are probably debates right now, given where the continent is, around the state of Pan-Africanism. Any thoughts on, I mean, of course, with your work that you've been doing, including Africa Rising, I'm sure there's a position that you currently hold around the state of Pan-Africanism.
Well, I would say that from Africans Rising perspective today, what is clear is that African liberation is an unfinished business. That there is clearly a need for African countries and African governments to be accountable to African people, rather than to external forces and to multinational businesses. It is clear also that there is a cry and a movement for African unity in a very concrete way, just in terms of allowing a circulation of people and goods on the continent, and feeling at home anywhere on this continent, which is not yet a given for today young Africans. So those are some of the big issues that our governments respond to us, because so far, and what we've been seeing is that it is not a given that when we are African, that what is ours, on our land, on our soil, benefit us first. It is a serious cry of the moment, and I think it unites us in that way, that things need to change in that sense.
So thank you for that. I want to come back to the writing segment. Every time I speak to you and you mention Popengini, I envy you, because you live next to one of my one of the most prolific writers that Africa has ever produced. And I used to love just visiting Aikwe Ama and just walk with him down, the beach, just listening to his thoughts and everything. But that's just me saying I miss Popengini because of Aikwe Ama. I'm not so sure that my colleagues here know who Aikwe Ama is. So Aikwe Ama is a Ghanaian writer. I think one of his popular novels is The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, as well as 2000 Seasons, among others. Of course, he has gone on to publish several other books, and Coumba just lives right there. And I think you've been part of the publishing house as well. Maybe we can talk a bit about the work that you, Aikwe Ama, and others have been doing in Popengini.
Yes, Aikwe is an amazing writer. The Healers is one of my favorite books, but Why We So Blessed, Kemet, Osiris Rising. He's a novelist. He writes novels, fiction, and he bases his work on very serious and profound historical research. And I went to Popengini as a young person to be trained as a writer by Aikwe.
Oh.
I went
Yeah.
to learn how to write with him and end up, staying somehow, as many of us do, around him. But currently, the work that he's, I think, the most proud of are some of the books that are translations of ancient texts, hieroglyphic texts. So we have, for example, a book called The Tale, the Peasant Tale, which is a thick book, but it's really a page that tells a story written 4,000 years ago.
Wow.
By Africans. And Aikwe and a team of people were able to translate it in several African languages and several European languages, including languages from South Africa, Zulu and Xhosa, in French, in Portuguese, in Wolof, in Bambara. And to show that it gives a window. Really, that work is exciting because imagine being able to read and understand how people were living or doing things or conversing 4,000 years ago. And it's a written text. So that's a very, very essential and important work that he has been involved in doing.
And you are here. I want us to end by talking about the work that you'll be doing while you are here. Of course, it's probably unfair for me to ask you how it has been because you did not start with the rest of the group. But the few days and hours that you've been here, what has really stood out for you? And at some point you were saying, something like this really needs to be done, especially for Francophone speaking countries. But I just want to get a sense of what has stood out for you here in the writing retreat so far.
It's been, amazing, even though it's been just few days. The fact that there is dedicated time to writing is not a given for women. As I stated it, as a woman, there is always something else that you could be doing than writing. Whether it's taking care of families and friends and community. For those of us who are engaged as activists, feminists, there's always some issues that pulled your attention, and of course work. Everything gets in the way of writing. So to have the opportunity to have dedicated time for writing is a luxury, but to also have other women who also write that are peers is actually also extremely valuable. And also to be able to dare to present what we write and work on and expect kindness and expect also people to be helpful in terms of positive critique. That's not also a given. So here I am presenting, just the little piece on languages, and getting feedback from people that are asking, is it published? And I'm like, no, it's a draft. I'm working on it.
I thought it was published already, so it's still a draft. What do you want to change, Coumba? That piece was so good.
So to as a writer, it's always the work is always in progress.
Of course.
So you need other people that you trust enough to say it's okay.
Yeah.
Let it go,
and
it will be okay.
Yeah.
So and I'm currently working on a piece that is more of an academic piece about oral traditions.
Yeah.
But here also, as much as we move around work, and there is always a second guessing. Again, this is being women, being African, that makes us retain ourselves sometimes. So having this opportunity is extremely important, and I know a lot of women also need it. That's why I'm doing one as soon as I get back home with other women.
I'm sure once that piece on languages is published, people are going to really find it powerful. So for me, I listened in as you were reading. Of course, all the languages were great, but for me, it was the language of silence that really resonated and is so powerful. One would never imagine that silence is a language. So to even think of it as a language and they put it out there as a language and then go on to explain what it does as a language was really powerful for me. So I'm really looking forward to the piece being published and for other people to have the same benefit like what others have had here. Of course, they might not have the same benefit in the sense that you will not be there to read for them. but those who are here had that utmost pleasure of having you read, have BC read.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we were talking to the facilitators earlier and saying, in the beginning, the reading wasn't part of the program.
It's beautiful.
But now that, they've seen it, maybe going forward is something that really has to be integrated formally into the program.
And even recorded. It's a really beautiful opportunity to listen to readings. And the language of silence is a language that a lot of women are fluent in. Not by choice.
Thank you, Coumba, for also serving on the steering committee of Adɔyɛ, the program that actually is hosting this writing retreat or collaborative with NAWI. I think we are realizing a bit of what we want to do, part of which we want to make sure that stories of women in philanthropy are documented. But secondly, that research is also conducted, those that want to write are assisted, etc., etc. So this is at a broader level, but there is also a level where we are focusing on individuals, and you are one person that we really want to work with you, and of course we haven't really finalized where we are going, but that's something that we really wanted to thank you on and say we would want to support you as much as we can in terms of the journey from here, especially on the documentation of your experiences. So I know we'll find some time to talk about the logistics and all of that, but just to really make it clear that we are committed to making it work. And I think, having seen what is happening here, it has given us even more impetus to try and look for resources to make sure that it does happen. So thank you so much for joining the steering committee, working with Tandy, Halima, Leila, and many others. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on that steering committee. And again, mind-blowing women, always. Each of them brings such an incredible amount of knowledge and wisdom. I'm looking forward to all we can do together.
Thank you, Coumba. I know we have really scratched the surface because there's a lot that we have not touched about you, and even those areas that we have touched with the related surface not deep enough, but I'm glad that people are going to also have the opportunity to read your experiences once they are finalized. So thank you so much. That was Coumba Toure, the chairperson of TrustAfrica Board, but also the founder of the Invisible Giants, among other things, a former member of Ashoka, a coordinator of Africa Risings. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.